This is Basic, the Atari 8-bit podcast.
This is Antic, the Atari 8-bit podcast. I'm Kevin Savitz. This is the fifth in a series of episodes featuring interviews with the kids of Atari's Youth Advisory Board. If you're just joining us, in 1983, Atari formed a Youth Advisory Board, selecting 20 kids, aged 14 through 18, from around the U.S. to share their opinions about computers, test software, and promote Atari's computers at events. This is an interview with Musa Mustafa, who was one of those kids. A March 25, 1983 article in the Santa Cruz Sentinel by Loretta Noffsinger said, "Computers without keyboards, toys that come to life at the sound of a child's voice, and programs that shoulder the chores of thank you letters. That's what these whiz kids see in the future. They envision a computer disguised within a toy to tell youngsters about the workings of the universe and others far beyond man's imagination, and Atari is listening to them." Later in the article, Noffsinger wrote, Musa Mustafa, 15, says he hopes to design an astronomy program to chart the location of stars and planets at specific times so that I can easily track them down in a telescope. The Walnut sophomore, who will skip his junior year at Roland High School, also envisions computers designing computers. This year, they're helping him make a movie about the 1984 Olympics. A combination of computer animation and film, the endeavor will open a new category in the Los Angeles International Film Exposition this spring, he says. My interview with Musa took place on April 26, 2018. In it, we discuss Ted Kahn, whom I previously interviewed.
Well, before Atari Youth Advisory Board, I did have a computer as a kid. My father had bought me a Texas Instrument TI 99-4A, and just to play around with it and just see what you could do with that. Mm-hmm. But I was always fascinated by electronics and computers as a kid. So the interest was always there in that area, and I always liked to read up on the new 8-bit computers that were coming out, and at that time those things were revolutionary. It's not like incremental game console updates that occur now. Those were like things that those were like getting like a spacecraft or something like that. They were just so different. My brother was into electronics as well, although he didn't really pursue that field. He went into civil engineering eventually, but he did a lot of things with electronics, making little color light organs and other things. Put some PCB boards together to do some stuff, and so that kind of got my interest. So my brother kind of pointed me in that direction in that sense. He introduced me to that stuff. So I was kind of interested in that, and my father bought me the TI. But around the same time, I was participating in a class in junior high school. I just met the art teacher. His name was Dave Master, and he had started an art class and an animation class in a junior high school at Rincon in Walnut. And I was taking that class. The first year was just art. The second year, which was 8th grade, mm-hmm. We were doing animation with Super 8mm film. And Dave Master, he kind of had a very different kind of classroom. It wasn't so structured. He didn't actually set any bars or limits. He kind of says, well, here's some equipment. This is what you could do with it. See what you could do with it. And so we would come up with a little story, write it up, and then draw a storyboard. And he taught us how to go through those process of developing a story or whatever idea, and drawing it out in the storyboard format, and then making the characters, and then filming it, and then editing it, and then put sound on it, all that good stuff. So I got really involved with that class, and started to I made a few short movies in that class, and I mean, they were like 3 minutes, or not even 3 minutes, but just a couple of minute short stuff that just had it was all claymation kind. I kind of got into the Star Wars look because I think around the same time that's when Star Wars came out, and I loved those spaceships flying around, and I wanted to do those special effects. So I made a little space movie with clay characters, and I made the spaceships, and I would actually scratch the film, the Super 8 millimeter film, to create the laser effects. So that's nice. How you did lasers. Yeah. So you would go look at the frame, and draw a little a line with an X-Acto knife on the film itself, and then you would then advance to the next frame and try to remember where the laser was in the previous frame, and then draw it.
I'm pretty sure that's how Lucas did it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he started off that way in his garage. And that's where we were filming these things, in our garages too. Sometimes we would take home the equipment over the weekend because we had to finish it up. And our garage would turn into little studios. But that's how it started. And then I took Dave Master's animation class throughout high school. So he actually moved to a high school after I've completed junior high. So at the same time, he went to Roland High School in Roland Heights. And I first was starting at a different high school, Nogales High School. But then I was able to apply for an intra-district transfer and go to Roland High School. And I told them, well, that high school had calculus, and Nogales didn't. But it was also because of that animation class that I wanted to go pursue. So I was able to transfer to Roland High School, and that's where Dave Master set up his shop in that high school. And then I took animation the rest of the high school years. And each year we would develop, more and more movies, and we would enter it into the local film festivals, and we won a lot of awards from that. And I actually got one award from I think it was Lucasfilms. Yeah, it was a C3PO. It was for special effects for Junior Arts Film Festival back I think in '84. So that was a lot of fun, and that was with that scratching on the film. That was my special effects. So in high school, I think that's when Dave Master got in touch with Ted Kahn. And Ted Kahn was working at Atari, and he was running some sort of grant program. And they kind of, got together and hit it off. And Dave Master was able to get some computers for his classroom, his animation class. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, that's when I got invited onto the Atari Youth Advisory Board. So, I got an Atari 1200 XL and disk drives. I almost said hard drive, but there was no hard drive. These were 5 1/4 inch floppies, and then I think I got a printer and a modem and some software. So it was like Christmas. It was fantastic. got to play with a lot of the games and software, and because I was also interested in electronics, I was doing some other stuff with making little circuit boards. But I think the first thing that I did with the Atari computer was to make a short little animated movie for the '84 Olympics. And it was nothing more than some geometric shapes flying around the screen, and then the Olympic circles coming together to form the Olympic sign. It was just a short little thing, but it got some recognition and some festival. But that was like the first thing I did with the Atari, make a little movie out of it. I would photograph the TV screen with the Super 8mm camera. Take one picture and advance the frame, and draw the next picture, and then take a picture of that. So it was like maybe less than a minute worth of film. But that was fun. So,
nice. Very cool.
Yeah. One of the other things I kind of made during that time was something that Ted Kahn was calling a video modem. I had built a circuit where it had all these photodiodes in an array, and you put it up against the television screen, and whenever it would see a light, it would then turn on a relay. So then you can make a program to turn on and off the pixels that point to the photodiodes in whatever sequence you want, and then you could actually videotape that sequence, and then you could take that tape somewhere and play it on a VCR, and you could strap that electronics onto the screen, and then it would then control or play out that sequence and control whatever things you wanted.
Huh.
I remember.
Sounds kind of amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. It was interesting. I remember Ted had said, "Oh, this sounds like a video modem or something like that." So I thought that was kind of interesting. But I was using it to actually controlling this little music keyboard. So when you have the light on one of the photodiodes, it would actually connect the contact of a little toy keyboard. And play a note. So it was just seeing what you could do with it. That was it.
Cool. Do any of those films that involve the Atari still exist, or the software or anything?
The software. I remember I used something called a koala pad.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if I have any of those images still around. I do still have a lot of the old Atari 5 1/4-inch diskettes lying around somewhere, but I haven't really fired those up. I don't have the koala pad anymore, so I don't know if I have those. But I know the film was somewhere. I need to go find it.
Cool. Well, if you need help getting the data off those old floppies, I can certainly help you with that. That's
okay.
That's a skill I have. Anyway, it'd be fun to see those films if you ever take them out of storage or whatever. That'd be cool.
Yeah, the animation class actually has a Facebook page. If you look up Roland Animation on Facebook, you'll find them, and some of the other ex-students had actually digitized some of those short animated movies that we made, and I think they posted up there, so you could probably see some of them there.
Awesome.
Yeah, so some of my favorites are. I have a friend who made this short about this guy who visits the dentist, and it was called A Day at the Dentist, and it was just hilarious. So this guy is pulling all these things out of this guy's mouth, and eventually he pulls out his skeleton. Really crazy stuff.
Nice.
So it was a very interesting class. I think there's a lot of people in that class that went into different industries. I went into computer engineering, and but there's others who went into animation, float design, all the aspects of movie making, actually, editing, special effects, making masks, all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of people who went in different fields.
Nice. You had said at the time in a couple of articles that you had hoped to open your own animation studio one day. It sounds like maybe that didn't happen?
No, that hasn't happened yet. Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about what you want to do and what actually materializes. It's interesting. I actually had received a grant to go to USC Film School, and so the opportunities were there. But I always found myself more interested in the technology aspects. I never really applied it to animation, but I just kept pursuing the technology side, and as I progressed through my career, I went into different areas of technology. I started off with actually working on hardware, and actually the first before the first job, I was an intern at Apple. When I was in college, I was working with an Apple fellow, Alan Kay, in L.A.
Sure. And
again, Dave Master had connections with Alan Kay, and somehow he kind of made that happen. And so I was working with Alan on coming up with different kinds of human interfaces with machines. And I was kind of focusing on some tactile feedback and other input devices. And one of them turned into a master's thesis, which was a hand character recognition algorithm that I was working on.
Hand character recognition algorithm?
Yeah, so it's just recognizing your handwriting, basically.
I see.
So, that time, that field was still in its infancy, and there weren't that many algorithms, and I was doing some development on block characters as well as scripting. And so I had developed some algorithms to recognize your handwriting, even script as you're writing. So without even lifting up your pen to break up the characters, it would identify the letters that you're writing in that continuous script. So that's one of the things I did there. And another device that I co-developed with someone at the Apple office was a 6 degree of freedom mouse. It's basically a mouse with a bunch of cursor wheels, kind of like what you have now, the scroll wheel, but there was like 3 other scroll wheels in addition, 3 or 4 others in addition to just the mouse ball. So you can manipulate objects in space. So if you've got an object in the virtual world, you could use the scroll wheels to control the pitch, yaw, and orientation. And I got a patent on that one, but not the single scroll mouse one. Boy, if we had only seen that one, I could only get a penny for each scroll, mouse with a scroll wheel.
Right.
I'd be retired, but that didn't happen. There was another mouse that I made while working with Alan. It was called a magnetic mouse, and at that time, you actually had a ball in the mouse, not these optical mice, but and most of the time people had to put the mouse on a mouse pad. And so what I used was a metal mouse pad instead of the cloth mouse pad. And what I did was I put a little electromagnet in the mouse. And depending on where you are pointed to on the screen, I could vary the electromagnet, and it would stick onto the mouse pad. So as you move the mouse around, I could actually, by manipulating the electromagnet current, simulate different textures, and you could actually feel parts of the screen through the mouse. When you hit an edge of a of a window, you feel that little tactile bump.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So it kind of gave you some feedback. So we kind of worked on fun projects like that. So that was when I was still an intern. They wanted me to go up north for the full-time job, but I didn't really want to relocate, so I didn't continue to work at Apple. I started working at another company in Irvine that was making digital film recorders. And at that time, they didn't have LCD projector screens. They actually printed, imaged a 35 millimeter slide for your business presentations at that time. So they would have a camera and a CRT screen, and they would basically put the image of whatever slide you want to image onto the CRT screen, and a 35 millimeter camera would take a photo of that. And so I was actually hired to come up with a new type of design where you have a resonating platform. So it was a mechanical device that would image the end of an optic fiber onto film. That was a very tough project because the vibrations from just people walking around would mess up the image. So, but it was fun to work on. I never worked on anything that was so precise. But
wow.
But then I decided that I kind of like the software aspect more than the hardware, and that's when I kind of shifted to just developing software.
Is that what you do today?
Yeah. So I went into software, but I still stayed within what's called as the embedded firmware. So it's software, but run on small devices.
Mm-hmm.
So the first company that I worked with in that area was a software security company that made security dongles, protected software from being pirated. And so started out with that. Then I worked at Cisco to work on the firmware for the routers. So I worked on different protocol stacks. And then I shifted towards the storage industry and developed firmware that I work with disk drives to manage them, and then to control multiple disk drives like RAID controllers. And then finally, I went on to work on the firmware that's in the hard drives and SSDs. So that's what I do now.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, getting back a little more, I have a few more questions about the Youth Advisory Board.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so first of all, one of the articles said, besides your hope to open an animation studio, another one said you hope to design an astronomy program to chart the location of the stars on your Atari. Did you do that?
I think somebody beat me to that.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's another one of my hobbies that I've always been into amateur astronomy, and I still am actually. I actually do some home projects that involve astronomy. Play around with a lot of the microcontrollers, like the Arduino and Raspberry Pi, and control the telescopes that I have and track them. But no company to actually do that as of yet. But I'm not counting it out.
Sure. Okay. Just keep it in the back burner, maybe.
Yeah, I actually had to, make something for. I went to see the eclipse, the total solar eclipse in Oregon last year, and I had a whole setup made for that, and so we could track the solar eclipse. So it was interesting getting through the security lines in the airport, but somehow I managed.
Nice.
Yeah, I still love to make little things for those things like astronomy and also photography too. I'm still into photography, and I make little controllers to control the cameras and the lenses. So just haven't productized anything yet.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
But it's fun to mess around with.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, so in the Youth Advisory Board, did you get to take any of the trips? Did they give you a copy of VisiCalc? Tell me about all the fun projects that you got involved with there.
See, we had one trip to San Jose, I remember, where we got together with all the group, and I think I flew up with Todd Bridges. He was the other guy in that Atari Youth Advisory Board. Mm-hmm. And we just went up there, got introduced to people running it. I kind of forget a lot of their names. We were shown some of the products, Atari products, and I don't remember too much about the first meeting. And then the only other main meeting that I remember is that we all went to the Consumer Electronics Show in Chicago. I think one summer or one spring. And we just kind of we all just hung out at the CES show looking at different computer gadgets and things like that. And that was about it. The rest of the time, it was just getting products for us to look at and play and give our comments on them. And yeah, I did get a copy of VisiCalc, and I wish I knew where it were. I actually still have all my, most of my Atari products. A lot of it is boxed away. I did pull out the 1200 XL that I got, and I do have that on a little display. I have this one room on one side where I kind of have a collection of a lot of old computers, including my old Atari and the TI, and I had later bought some of the old ones through eBay, like the Apple IIs and Commodore 64s, and I made a little, kind of like a little museum.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I put together a little old retro arcade cabinet that runs some of the old games through MAME. Mm-hmm. So my son and I have fun with that, playing Pac-Man and some of the old games there.
Oh, cool. Do you remember what other software Atari gave you to test and what you thought of it?
I remember quite a few games. I think Star Raider was one of my favorite. That probably I probably spent a lot of time on Star Raiders. They gave some of the educational. I think the music. There was a music program. There was Atari Writer. I actually used Atari Writer for a lot of reports in high school and in college. So nice. I used that. They provided a 300 baud modem, just lightning fast. I remember dialing into my college VAX machine. I went to Cal Poly Pomona, and we were all given accounts to be able to dial into the VAX system and my Atari was a terminal, and I was able to do a lot of classwork that way. That was pretty helpful. So I think I used Telelink cartridge, Telelink 2 or whatever.
Yep, sounds right.
And see what else. I think they gave me a small little color plotter. It wasn't the full page width, but it's like half the page width and a color plotter. I think it holds like 4 pens, 4 different colors, and it's pretty slow, but it was kind of interesting that it could produce a color output. And I remember one time I wanted to turn that into a image scanner, so I stuck a photodiode and I put a little kind of like a hood on the photodiode so it would only look at a small part of the page, and I would just tell the plotter to just scan, and the output of the photodiode would go to the paddle input of the computer.
Sure.
And so it had I think it was an 8-bit value. So I was able to do a grayscale scan of images on that plotter. So that was kind of interesting.
That's very cool.
Yeah. See what other software. There was a lot of games, but those were the main software that I remember. You know, the Atari Writer, the modem terminal that I used a lot. So, and the basic cartridge and Atari logos. Those were fun to use too.
Very cool. I love that you built stuff with it. I mean, the scanner and the other interfaces and things. That's
the video modem.
Yeah, video modem. That sounds awesome. I'd love to see that in action.
I wish I still had it, but that was a long time ago. But it was a lot of fun. I just love to tear things apart and try to build something out of it and see how I could use something in one area into another. So that was always a lot of fun. So, but I don't think my parents enjoyed me tearing things apart, though. So there's a good and a bad.
Do you think they had any opinion on you taking the trip to the CES? Was that weird?
It was a big trip because it was my first trip so far away from home. I mean, that was Chicago, and I lived in LA. So they were a little bit concerned, but at the same time, they were pretty excited that I was allowed, or I was allowed to be part of that group and participate in something like that. So they were really excited, and so was I. I didn't know what to expect, but it was a lot of fun seeing different people from different backgrounds, also from different places, different states.
Did you make any friends?
Nothing long term. It's not that it wasn't as easy as it is now. With emails and text and things like that, you're constantly connected. But I guess we get just so busy with our school and everything else. The connections didn't really last too long. It was great when we were together, but once the trip ended, we kind of went our own ways.
Sure.
So it was kind of too bad that we didn't have any reunions or anything else after that. But Atari also went through some difficult times at that time, so they couldn't really sustain a project like that.
Sure. Yeah. All right. You said you didn't remember too much about the Sunnyvale trip, and I understand that. It was a long time ago. But are there any highlights or anything that jumps out at you as a memorable part of that trip?
Yeah. My exposure to Battlezone.
All right.
That's when I saw that arcade game, and I was just blown away. That was a great vector graphics, and honestly, that's the only thing I remember.
That's a good thing to remember.
I was just kind of blown away by the graphics, and I'm trying to jog my memory right now, and it's just that thing that just keeps coming back. It's like, the vector graphics of that. I thought, wow, this is a really cool game. I remember, I think I saw some of the offices, but that's all kind of vague to me right now. But that's it. Unfortunately, that's the only memory I've got.
Okay, that's fair. Fair enough. I think I'm winding up. Do you have any? What haven't I asked you about the Atari time that I should have?
I don't know exactly what happened as far as how the program kind of ended. That's something that I would like to know myself. That's something that would have been a good question, but I don't have, the answer to that one. But I've always found that kind of curious, how the group kind of winded down and the whole program ended. But I still keep in touch with Ted Kahn. Interestingly enough, we're still friends, and also with Dave Master, and we still ping each other on the emails. And I have his old book that he wrote for Atari. In fact, I forgot to mention this. During that time, Dave Master and we were co-writing a computer animation book, and I think it was tied to Ted Kahn as well, maybe through the publisher or something like that. But that was something that we were working on. I don't think it actually got published, but that was another thing that we kind of did together at that time when I was in high school. But that's about it. I mean, it's interesting how all those people that were part of that advisory group, like I said, we're not really connected now. It's kind of sad because it was an interesting time. But it's interesting that the person, I think it was Ted Kahn, who was kind of coordinating that program. We're the ones who are still connected.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, cool. If you could send a message to the Atari computer users that still exist, and you can right now, what would you tell them?
I tell them that I think we were part of a very interesting time in our lives. We were, all teenagers at that time, so we're at a very impressionable time of our lives, and at that very time, there was a revolution, or this whole computer revolution occurring that didn't exist before in the home computers, and it was such an exciting time that it would be good to get together or somehow reconnect and just talk about how it has affected our lives and the rest of our lives. That one very important time in history, and that we were part of the 8-bit computer revolution, right? So just like how you're asking me how my life turned out, I'd be curious to find out how all the other ex-Atari Youth Advisory Board members have turned out as far as what they've done and what areas do they actually pursue in their careers. That would be interesting to find out.
Well, you will be able to once I get these interviews pushed out. I'm not talking to all of them, but talking to several, so you'll be able to get a glimpse, I guess.
Yeah, maybe we could create some sort of forum where we could re-engage and and just reminisce.
Sure, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. think I have what I need, Musa. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. I really do appreciate you reaching out to the people in this group, because I was actually shocked that somebody even remembered it. So that was quite a surprise. So thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. If you enjoy these interviews and would like to contribute, there are two ways you can help. You can help fund these interviews directly by contributing to my Patreon. A small monthly contribution will help offset the expenses of making these oral history interviews. Contribute at patreon.com/Savitz. Or make a tax-deductible contribution to the Internet Archive, a nonprofit digital library that has done incredible things to preserve computer history. Make your tax-deductible contribution at archive.org/donate. Thanks.